intentionally because it's so slightly banked corner, but a bit leery on the exit there. So
Yo, yo, what up, gangsters?
with you all the way up, that momentum all the way up the hill. So yeah, but Ryo Hirakawa, he's a good driver. He's a solid driver, a professional, and he's one of these guys that I heard Jacques mention earlier on, in that some drivers they're workers. They have to work at it, and he's very studious in his approach to racing. So yeah, Rio, I think, being the Toyota driver, they need to. It's easy for Honda drivers. A young Japanese driver getting in with Honda, they have a path, a roadway to Formula One from a young age. Whereas Toyota are missing that. So they feel like they're starting this initiative now by placing their drivers into, well, teams like Alpine and drivers like Ryo Hirakawa, giving them, their young drivers, a chance and maybe more of a pathway through to Formula One as well. So that's why we're seeing Rio in F1 in the Alpine.
Making way, he was there just before the chicane for the McLaren of Oscar Piastri to come through, and Oscar Piastri crosses the line with a 1:31.5. Max Verstappen with a 1:30.7 has the fastest time so far. 6/10 clear on Lando Norris. Let's just briefly talk about Red Bull and Max Verstappen, who hasn't lost here in qualifying or the race since 2019. Last 3 races he's won from pole. He's pretty much led every lap as well. And last year absolutely destroyed the opposition. And I think this year is a real benchmark as to where Red Bull stands when you compare their dominance from 12 months ago.
This is the kind of track where you really see the performance of a car with all the high-speed corners, a car that's balanced, and also that gives confidence to the driver. But it's also a driver's track where drivers like Verstappen will make a difference.
Yeah.
It's not surprising that he's always been quick here. He's always destroyed his opponents and his teammates. And also, it's not an understeery track. It's a track that has the front end working really well, and Max Verstappen loves that.
He took pole here by over half a second last year, won the race by nearly 20 seconds, and set a fastest lap that was 1 second faster than his nearest rival.
But what is it he didn't do?
Well, exactly. But it's what he's able to do coming back this year that is, I think, of more importance as Alonso goes second fastest.
Yeah, but hold on. Alonso on hard tires,
Yeah.
Verstappen on soft tires. So the Alonso lap is quite impressive.
Well, we've got his team boss, Andy Cowell, is on the pit lane. We'll talk to him about that. Is that an early indication that the soft tyre might not be holding up for a complete lap here?
It's always difficult to have the soft tire holding, mostly on a Friday morning. But that's when they start. The track is green. It's not being rubbered in. That's the worst potential for the soft tire.
Yeah. But in terms of Verstappen and Red Bull, compare it to last year. He was a happy boy this time last year at Red Bull. It was a 1-2. His teammate was performing. He was performing. And everything looked great. Now, fast forward 12 months on, and it's a very different story behind the scenes and on the track.
Well, it started halfway through the last season.
Yeah.
That's when we noticed that even Verstappen had a hard time to drive above the car, to adapt to the car. It became just that little bit too difficult to drive that even he had to maybe sometime...
Any initial balance feeling? Looks a little bit nervous, low speed perhaps.
Hirakawa. He's happy. So good, the car is balanced. And that's when we realized that even Verstappen had to maybe go back a little bit on the setup, have it less pointy to settle the rear down. And when the driver has to compromise the setup, it's never a good sign.
And you start losing your pace as a result.
Well, you can't push as hard. You can't rely on the car to respond the way you want it. So you're always on the back foot.
Medium tyre for George Russell, who set the fastest middle sector heavy braking zone into the chicane. It always looks clumsy when you ride on board. I bet it doesn't feel quite as clumsy when you absolutely nail it. And to the line we go, and he's second fastest behind Verstappen by 16 milliseconds, 16 one-thousandths of a second, call it what you wish, a smidge behind Max Verstappen. Ted, down to you.
Down at Haas, thank you, Crofty. And when you're a rookie, you haven't done many laps around here, especially in a Formula One car, you want all the laps you can get. Ollie Behrman is not getting that at the moment. Whether it's a setup change or a problem, I'm still to find out. But he's been garage bound, Crofty, for the last 5 or 10 minutes with a mechanic underneath the car towards the rear of the car, towards the rear suspension gearbox area. I don't think, that's also where the battery is, but I don't think there was a power unit issue or anything with the power unit system. It might just have been just to sort something out on the rear suspension. You have to jack the car up to get to it. But that job is more or less done now, and it looks like Behrman will rejoin the track. So yeah, coming off a very good weekend in China, double points. Behrman's just been garage bound for a few minutes.
And Haas, I'm led to believe, Ted, fast forwarding some of their development work for this year to bring upgrades floor-wise for this weekend, and a team that have said from Australia and China, you know, we're not quite where we thought we would be after testing.
Well, they needed it, didn't they, Crofty?
Yeah.
So they do have a revised rear central part of the floor. So just sort of fixing some of the downforce issues. The lack of downforce, really. There you go. So you can hear Behrman going out in the background. It's just pure lack of downforce. The car didn't seem to be too badly balanced. They were lacking in the high speed in Australia, but they weren't too bad on the particular characteristics of the Shanghai track. So more downforce needed, a new floor here this weekend, and yeah, you've got both cars on track in there. Lovely cherry blossom livery. We haven't said too much of the cherry blossom yet, have we, Crofty?
We've concentrated on that Red Bull livery, but I have to say, I rather like the Haas livery. Bit of pink.
Yeah, it looks quite nice, mostly after the surprising start of the season. That was highly unexpected.
What, the Australia bad weekend or the China better weekend?
The better weekend.
I think they were both a bit of a surprise for them, to be honest. But no, you're right. Ted, you're the expert in Japan. Is it Sakura, the Japanese cherry blossom? That's the inspiration for the Haas livery?
Yes, it is. The cherry blossom, exactly, yeah. Or Sakura, if you want to pronounce it with its Japanese pronunciation.
That's exactly what I wanted from you, Ted. Thank you very much indeed. It's a little bit of pink, and let's face it, for everyone back at home in the UK and the Republic of Ireland who've had to get up in the middle of the night, a little bit of pink probably is a good thing. Liam Lawson back with the Racing Bulls then, and at the moment on the hard tyre, 17th fastest. His teammate has just gone 7th fastest. These are very early days, but it is worth pointing out, Anthony Davidson, last year FP1 fastest time 1:30.05 from Max Verstappen. We've already gone quicker, and we're 14 minutes into the first session.
Yeah, exactly, and that new surface would definitely be helping, but also a whole year of improvement as well, Crofty, from the cars. And you know, it's still relatively new, this generation of F1 cars, and they're still learning. All the teams learning the intricacies of the floor, how you get the downforce, how you get the performance from these cars. So yeah, new surface certainly helping, but it's a relentless process in Formula 1, how you bring those upgrades thick and fast, and especially from one year to the next.
Pole last year was a 1:28.1 from Max Verstappen. All-time best lap here, by the way, 1:27.0. Sebastian Vettel in 2019. I dare say that could be under threat this year by the time we really get going in earnest. Lando Norris through the chicane.
He's always been aggressive. He's always been aggressive over those curbs, hasn't he, Lando Norris? He's one of those drivers who loves to explore utilising curbs on the track. I see that quite often with him. And that last chicane here in Suzuka has a lot of character. It has a flat top to that curb. It's not the classic kind of sausage curb, flat curb leading into it, where you have to drive to a certain line. You can only go so far. That last chicane really has character, and it's nice to see that, therefore, the different drivers approach different approaches.
How was the balance that lap?
The balance is okay. To be honest, I'm not really pushing enough yet.
Not pushing yet to feel
I think it's okay.
the limit of his car. So well, it's good. He's in there trying to get to grips with his new his new animal that he has underneath him, and he wants to tame it. And it's one that needs to be tamed, that Red Bull.
Do you think putting him into the Red Bull for the first time at his home Grand Prix could be counter-intuitive? Because he needs time, as you say, to settle into his new team. But you know what it's like at a home Grand Prix. The pressure is massively on you to perform.
At the same time, some drivers do better under pressure, which was what we will find out this weekend. It's a track he knows really well. He drove well here in the past. It's probably a track where the bad characteristic of the car aren't too apparent, so it's not so bad. It's not nasty in that sense, and we can see it with Verstappen's lifetime already, and also the conditions are cold. Normally that masks a little bit of the issues in the car.
Getcha. George Russell has gone quicker than Max Verstappen. Russell on the medium tyre, Verstappen on the soft. Hard tyres been run by quite a few.
And quite performant at hard tyre. They manage, mostly if you think start of a weekend, what happens? You need a few laps to get up to speed. So putting your soft tyre right away, you won't extract its potential on that first lap out of the pits like you should on the soft tires. The hard tire lets you get up to speed gradually and still have tire potential.
So already appointed that the undercut might be the way forward on this one. If the hard tire is performing well and hasn't seemingly got warm-up issues, undercut could be the way forward here.
It's always something very prominent in modern Formula One. This undercut, whoever pits a little bit earlier and starts, the dance of everyone stopping.
The dance of the pit stops. Jacques Villeneuve with us this weekend, Anthony Davidson in the commentary box as well. And we're watching Lewis Hamilton out on track and Esteban Ocon, 5th in China. What a performance that was for him. And for the Haas team with their double points, Ocon stays down in the lower reaches after that latest run, though, with a time of a 1:31.9. George Russell with a 1:29.6 has the fastest time so far by 7/100ths of a second to Max Verstappen. Here at Suzuka, Yuki Tsunoda taking time to get to grips with his car and pushing harder on this lap on the soft tyres, as you could see through the chicane on his way to a current 5th fastest in the Red Bull. And while he's coming to terms on the track, in the pit lane, Carlos Sainz is having a few issues as well. We'll see that in a couple of moments. This is what it looked like with Yuki Tsunoda off board. Big slide as he got the power down. So here's Sainz coming into the pit lane.
Not far behind. Box. Remember, we had the beginning of the pit lane.
Oh, I missed it, guys. I thought we were at the end. Sorry.
Okay, so straight out, and we're boxing again.
Yeah, sorry for that.
That's hilarious. So, because it's Suzuka, where he thought he should have been at one end, he's not. It's all changed round in the pit lane here. You must have got into the wrong pit box at some stage in your
Trying
career.
to remember if it happened. I spun in the pit lane, that I remember.
Yeah, that showed the
I don't
talent.
remember if I stopped at the wrong place, but he spent how many years at Ferrari, how many years stopping in one place, and drivers have a lot of memory, and a lot of the driving happens with memory. So he gets in the pit, and he forgot he wasn't winning. He just drove, okay, every time in Suzuka, what do? I go to the end of the pit lane.
It's a different story for Carlos Sainz, Anthony Davidson this year.
It is a very different story, but it's interesting, isn't it? We talk about Liam Lawson's struggles in a new car in the Red Bull, and we put it down to the fact that he's so inexperienced still. But then you look at Carlos Sainz on the other opposite end of the scale, and he's really struggling in the Williams.
2 seconds, Ad.
Look over here, man. The car is flexing along.
Yeah, we saw that, didn't we?
Which bit?
We saw that, didn't we, through the first of the Degners just then. It's like it understeered, but the rear of the car kind of, like you said, it almost like there was some kind of torsion going on inside on the rear of the car, and he just sort of pushed the front end on. So he's not. It's really not an easy car to drive, is it? When you hear Max Verstappen complaining about things like that going on with the car, it really goes to show how Tsunoda is going to have to work very hard here to get on top of that car or anywhere close.
Absolutely right. Anthony, we'll go from you in our Skypad studio to the pit wall next. Andy Cowell, CEO, team principal, all-round man in charge at Aston Martin, is joining us from the pit wall. Lovely to have you with us, mate, on a big weekend for you, for your association with Honda for the future, and also with a lot of learning to do, because this track's changed a lot since you were last here.
Yes, Crofty. Hello. Nice to talk to you.
Good to see you. New surface, lap times coming down already. Was that what you were predicting, or is it even more of a dramatic improvement?
Yeah, Sector 1's been resurfaced and is exceptionally smooth compared with the rest of the track. So it's just trying to understand how the tyres react to that. Sector 1 is the hardest sector on the tyres, and so with that tarmac change, it's something that all the engineers, especially the tyre engineers, need to understand.
And as if that wasn't bad enough, the tyres have changed from last year as well. So is it complete guesswork?
It's never complete guesswork, Crofty. There's science behind it, but running in free practice 1, seeing how we're getting on, yeah, and then we can feed that into free practice 2 setup.
Yeah, the car doesn't look that bad early season, although you didn't get all the points you wanted with Fernando losing some, but you've had a very strong Lance racing, and he's smiling all the time. We seem to see a very different driver.
Yeah, Lance has had a great start to the season. He's got a huge amount of experience, and he's feeding that into the team nicely and helping us learn this year and for next year.
Ted, come in.
Thank you very much, Crofty. Yeah, Andy, just a quick couple of questions from down here in the pit lane. We're watching what's going on. Firstly, Lance did a front wing swap. So can you tell us what you're hoping to compare and contrast from that? And secondly, when Fernando pitted, your number one mechanic came out with a little swab to clean what I imagine is a sensor in your rear crash structure. Were you not getting information from that sensor, or what was that?
I saw you having a look, Ted. Yes, so front wing swaps, just to assess the performance of different front wings and saving time by doing it at the front. And yeah, one of the sensors at the rear was giving us some dodgy data. So Mikey came out and cleaned the sensor, and the car went back out again.
Talking of data, how's the correlation looking between your brand new wind tunnel, still hasn't got any dust on it yet, and what you're seeing at the track?
That's a big topic for every aerodynamicist, correlation, the challenge of CFD to wind tunnel to track. We're 3 and a bit weeks into using our wind tunnel, so we've got the 25 model and the 26 model in there, and just pulling all the data together and learning about the new technology that we've got in the tunnel and how that all ties up with what we've got here on track today.
25 models, that means there's lots of upgrades coming for this year. I was led to believe this was an interim year and you'd all be switching to 26 quite quickly.
Every race matters, Crofty, so we're keen to learn about, you know, we need to learn this year on track and with all the tools we've got in the factory, so we know just how strong and reliable the tools are for creating the car for next year.
Andy, thanks for joining us. We'll talk more as the day goes on, and we'll talk engines with you as well, if that's okay, a little bit later on.
Thank you.
Cheers. Andy Cowell with us live on the pit wall for this weekend. His debut on the pit wall live for us as well.
Well, it's good because there's no pressure really on that team yet. Like I said, it's an interim year, and that's the best time to work in a new wind tunnel. It takes time because all you get is a bunch of numbers, but then what do you do with those numbers? You have to understand what they mean, and on their own, they're not a language. So it takes a few months to correlate, to make sure it's the same as the other wind tunnel. What you see in the wind tunnel, does it work on the racetrack? How does the driver actually feel it? That takes a long time.
Yeah, it's a brilliant facility. Ooh, that was a bit aggressive once again from Lando.
Well,
Norris.
rear tires overheated by then, I guess, and then you see it once they get to the chicane.
Yeah, so big, impressive new facility at Silverstone for the Aston Martin team. Mercedes, meanwhile, with George Russell, 128.8.
Yes, but that's disappointing. It was the soft tire, so he went to a new soft tire and didn't gain that much time. So that's often the case when you have a lot of high-speed corners. The soft tire moves around a little bit too much, overheats, and even though there's a lot more grip, you don't actually see it completely in the lap time.
Oscar Piastri, also on the soft compound tyre, 8 sets of the soft compound tyres for each team for this weekend, and 3 of the medium, 2 of the hard, and Piastri goes 3rd fastest. Piastri was perfect in Shanghai. Pole, first Grand Prix pole, went and took the win, did exactly what he needed to do after an Australia that, bar one corner, was also pretty perfect.
Yes, true.
But that one corner cost him so much.
He's been on pace for the first 2 races, where last year we saw a little bit of a yo-yo, you know, up and down. Some races impressive, some others off the pace. It wasn't constant, and like he said himself, so far the first 2 races he was on pace, and if you look at Australia, he was behind Norris because he was behind in qualifying, but race pace was similar. But once you're behind, you're behind, and the same thing happened last race. We had a feeling that maybe Norris was a little bit faster, but being stuck behind overheated his car.
Kimi Antonelli, George Russell's teammate, goes 2nd fastest. Piastri says it's all about the devil in the detail in terms of improving for this year, and particularly over one lap. I think he's addressing what you're suggesting there. Qualifying could be the absolute key in what should be a very tight battle.
Well, you can see it. That's what gave him his win in China. The same way as Lewis won a race. Why? Because he had a great qualifying, and that's the only way he could stay in front and control the race. So it has become even more important than in the past. And sometimes pole can be a few hundredths of a second against your teammate.
Can I predict that we're going to get a third member of the birthday club this weekend? So the birthday club in F1, drivers what have won a Grand Prix on their birthday, and there's only two of them: James Hunt in 1976, John Alesi in 90 whatever it was with the
92
with the Canadian Grand Prix, 95 Canadian Grand Prix. I always joke to John Alesi they should have had more races on his birthday than won more than one, but Oscar Piastri races on his birthday this Sunday.
And he comes off a win.
Exactly. And with all due respect to Alex Albon, who had his 29th birthday in Shanghai, I don't think we have come closer to getting a third member of the birthday club for quite some time. As Tsunoda goes second fastest.
It is true, it is possible, but the difference in between also Piastri and Norris is Norris uses up his front tires, destroys them, which was a problem in China. It was a very understeery track, and he was limited. That's not an issue here, so maybe Norris will get the upper hand because of that.
If Oscar does win, and if he can make up that 10-point margin on his teammate Lando Norris, it might also be the first time, and it will be the first time, that a driver will inherit the lead of a championship on his birthday as well. I'm pushing the birthday narrative.
You're already writing the screenplay. It's very, very, very impressive.
Tell me about it. It's not just the F1 movie. It's got a great screenplay. It's all in my notes as well. But that would be the perfect present for him, I'm absolutely sure. So what have we got at the moment? George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda, Kimi Antonelli. Anthony, talk to us about Russell and Antonelli. George Russell, who, for two races now, we haven't said an awful lot about. But boy, has he been there at the finish to take the absolute maximum that he ever thought he was going to get from it.
Well, I think it's early days, isn't it, in this season? But so far, Crofty, I would say he's my driver of the season so far as George Russell. He's driven brilliantly. He's absolutely maximised everything, both in qualifying and race trim from that car. So we're watching Max Verstappen now. I think he's on a brand new set of soft tyres here. They look like nice shiny sidewalls, at least, when we picked him up going through the final chicane. So this will be an interesting lap to not only compare to that of George Russell's, but Yuki Tsunoda as well, who sits just 3.5 tenths away. So it's a pretty tidy lap from Tsunoda. A little bit wide there at the mid-corner point in turn 11, but you can get away from it, away with it around that corner because of the banking. And then that traction that you look for on the exit of 11 lives with you all the way up that hill to turn 13, then into spoon of 14, and that's a really critical area.
Delta to Russell's iconic 3 tenths.
Yeah, I think let's focus on ourselves. I don't need much of reference time.
Understood.
Yeah, nice mature comment from Yuki.
Yeah.
And into the final heavy braking zone we go with Verstappen clobbers over that curve pretty aggressively. The car seems to take it well, and he gets decent traction on the exit as well around that final corner to just nip in front of his teammate Yuki. But that will be what Red Bull are looking for here from Tsunoda, just to be somewhere close to Verstappen, closer than we've seen from Perez and of course from Lawson as well more recently, as Russell improves that first sector again, Crofty.
Yeah, and across the line, Lewis Hamilton, and to start a new lap, get barreling down into turn 1 is the Racing Bull of Isaac Hadjar. Russell might have got a purple in the first sector. Second sector, he couldn't improve on his or anyone's best time so far. Takes a dash to the line, not necessarily the shortest route there. Max Verstappen, as you noticed, was a lot more over to the right-hand side, but Russell remains out in front with a 1:28.7. And it was the best time so far that George just put in from Charles Leclerc, from Max Verstappen, from Yuki Tsunoda, who says, let's not worry about anybody else. And he's right to say that, but we're always going to focus on teammate battles, and that is a positive side.
Yes. You don't want to have too much information when you still try to figure out your car, but you kind of need to know where you stand. If you're 2 seconds off the pace, you need to know. You can't just focus on yourself. because it will push you in driving in a certain way. You know that, okay, 2 seconds off cannot just be the car. I need to figure something out. I need to push hard. I need to understand where I'm slow. Now you will look at the lap time and think, okay, I'm a tenth off Verstappen. Let's not overdo it.
So, Anthony, going up to Red Bull has all the pressures, but is one of the benefits for Yuki Tsunoda that he can sit there and look at the way Max Verstappen drives and get all the data traces that he wants, and use that then as a guide to help him improve his own driving?
Well, you can do that, Crofty, definitely. I don't know whether he's actually had the time to do that yet. You can look at data from inside the car when you come into the pits, but it would have only been a brief moment. He'll get more of a, whoa, that's another
Norris.
moment there for Norris. I think the problem is here, guys, is that he keeps hitting that right curve too much in 16, and it's really upsetting the car in the change of direction from 16 into 17, and the rear just can't take it. So I think he's going to have to change his approach in 16. Like I said, he likes to hit that curb hard. I just feel like he's going over it a bit too much at this in these early stages. But going back to Yuki,
third time, isn't it?
It's the third time, yeah. And as like Jack said as well, the tyre can't take it at the end of the lap. It's hot, it's overused, overworked. So let's have another look. So here he is going through 130R. That's easily flat out. You put very little stress through the tyres there. He's got a car in his way. Maybe that slightly put him off, but no, he didn't actually hit the curb too much. What he did was take probably a little bit too much of 17 apex, and that just hooked the inside front and sent the rear round. So sometimes you need to, just like I love these curbs in this final corner because you really have to find your way through there. So the car's not liking the inside front being hooked on that left.
Okay, just to be clear, I was well out of his way when he went off.
Got a bit.
Yeah,
It wasn't me, honest. Wasn't it? Now it wasn't. Maybe just like a visual, just a visual thing when you're inside the car. It doesn't take much just to distract you in those kind of moments. But Lawson did nothing wrong there. He's right to say that. But I like the way he puts his hand up straight away. Not me. I didn't send him off.
Normally when a defender puts his hands up, it's because they're as guilty as sin, and they committed the foul. Not on that particular occasion. Charles Leclerc showing Friday pace, or early Friday pace. 10th of a second off through the first couple of sectors. Now, he has a car in his way. The Sauber of Nico Hülkenberg crosses the line, stays second fastest. That was the 130, Leclerc, that was the 129.0 that he just came up with there. So
And he lost time in that last sector. There was traffic. But, the teams come here well prepared because China had high-speed corners that Australia didn't. So they have a good read now on what the car band should be in.
Ooh, big lock up from Alex Albon into the hairpin.
And we saw in China how damaging it was for cars to follow each other.
Yeah.
And to go back to our, how the races were won. They were won by pole sitters because they could control that race because they managed to destroy the cars behind them.
I think it's becoming very prevalent even in this modern era of Formula One with less turbulence and less turbulent wake. Your tyres can still get chewed up a fair bit.
I think they're creating more and more turbulence because they're
putting more downforce
They're putting more downforce on, so they need that clean air, and also because the cars are becoming so precise that a small disturbance in the air makes the car not work. But when you have an aero packet that's not very efficient, it doesn't really matter the quality of the air, or it doesn't matter as much.
20 minutes to go, just over in this session, and George Russell has the fastest time by 2.5 tenths. From Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda separated by a tenth of a second. Fernando Alonso currently 5th fastest. Hülkenberg goes 50. Lando Norris, fresh set of soft tyres with just under 20 minutes to go in this first practice session. And the man who has headed practice one in Australia and in Shanghai puts in the fastest time. He's a 10.5 clear of George Russell. Fernando Alonso going.
I think it's the tape lying on his on the hood on the front. There was, a little tape flapping.
Yeah, there is. You can just see by the number 14.
Not good for aero at speed.
Would he see that?
No,
flap that's come
and
open,
the
isn't it?
camera is higher than we are. This he will not see himself.
Yes, I think it's a little flap that's come open on that one. Ryu Harakawa, by the way, has just gone 12th fastest in the Alpine. We are split by a second, first down to 14th, and in terms of track dominance, there are parts of this track at the moment where Yuki Tsunoda has the advantage over Max Verstappen, and noticeably there, Jack, the two straights, Yuki Tsunoda maybe carrying
He pushes
more
harder on his foot.
You reckon? Or he's just carrying more speed onto it?
No, or he
he's
could have
lower
maybe
downforce, I don't
just
know.
a tiny bit less downforce on the rear end, or just a little better exit, maybe a toe. It's marginal.
Sit slower in the car, Crofty. I can make that
speaking
joke.
from
I can
experience.
make that joke.
But I've often noticed smaller drivers sit higher for some reason.
Yeah? Well, it's like a booster seat. Did you have one?
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of height, you and Ant are quite similar, aren't you? The perfect height for a racing driver.
Used to be, when the cars were small.
But now you need to be bigger. So there's hope for me yet. Maybe. Fernando Alonso, currently 7th fastest. Fernando Alonso, a man who has won a couple of Japanese Grand Prix, one at Fuji and one here at Suzuka back in his title-winning season in 2006, and he remains 7th fastest.
And it's a good start, quicker than we've seen all season. He seems to be happier now, and looking at what's happening also, Sainz seems to be finding his way. But remember, he's a driver that always takes his time to get comfortable in a car. Every team he's been to, it takes a few races. He likes working at it, even on the weekend. It takes him time. He likes to understand where the limit of the car is, but he's always given the impression to make team improve while he was there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Once he hits his stride, Carlos Sainz, he's a super driver. I pause just because we're going through Degna 1 and Degna 2, and I love riding on board the cars, going through those corners. I really do. Into the hairpin, and this camera angle is superb, isn't it?
There's no breather. It carries on, and you can see that as soon as they come out of the corner, they're already positioning themselves for the next corner where they have to brake and so on. So a little mistake makes it very difficult for the corner that comes, and that's why you end up losing a lot of time with one tiny mistake.
As I was saying earlier, Jack, 5.8 kilometers long, this circuit. You are, as
You're
you
going
are now,
somewhere.
you're going somewhere, back to the scene of where you started, but now you've got your steering wheel straight, we'll turn again. You've only got 1.2 kilometers of that 5.8 that you take in a straight line. The rest, you are turning the steering wheel.
Well, that's the part of the track where you take a breather and you think, okay, this is what's happened in all these corners, the car is doing this, how should I approach the chicane to make sure I don't mess up that lap if it's been perfect until then? And sometimes it's easier when you don't have time to think. You just drive naturally by memory. But when you have time to worry about what's coming, that's when mistakes can happen.
Absolutely. And we were just riding on board with Kimi Antonelli there for a moment. We see Bono, who's obviously stood too close to the council grass cutters in the last couple of days because his hair has got a lot shorter. Antonelli saying, I think it was on one of the podcasts, I think it was on the Fast and Curious podcast, that he's trying to combine being a full-time professional Formula One driver with taking his final exams at school, which is no easy feat to try and fit in exam dates for starters, but heaven only knows when he gets time to actually do any schoolwork.
Wow, it's impressive, and it's a reminder as to how young this kid is. And I mean, what a great job he's doing so far. He's had a few lucky escapes, I must admit. Melbourne being one of them, where that very easily could have gone off and sent him into the barrier. We're going to see here with Max Verstappen coming into the final chicane. Is it traffic related? No, just a lock-up. Cold front, right front tyre there. No harm done with that one on a prep lap. But yeah, with Antonelli, who currently, by the way, hangs on to the fastest final sector. I wondered who had that when we saw Norris's lap. Norris has got the first two purple sectors, and yeah, Antonelli fastest third sector. But yeah, Antonelli, I think he's got the perfect engineer to be working with at this stage in his career. With Bono, so experienced. Obviously, having seen Lewis Hamilton through so many world championships and grown himself as an engineer, so it must be really nice for Peter Bollington to be working with such a young driver after Lewis Hamilton, and almost like, yeah, able to use all of that experience that he's accumulated over the years, and now deploy that and give that to Kimi. So, but yeah, I wasn't aware that Kimi was actually still going through his exams. That's impressive.
Speaking as a parent to two boys that are taking exams in the summer, if Kimi can do it, then you two can do it as well. Get your revisions sorted out. And I say that on behalf of parents everywhere with kids coming up for their exams now. Ted Kravitz, who passed all of his exams with flying colours. Where are you now, sir?
Yes, because you never know when you're going to need those qualifications, do you, Crofty? So you need to have them in the bank. I know he's made it as a Formula One driver, but always good to fall back on your education.
That drama O-level I took served me well over the years.
No surprise to anybody. Right, how is Liam Lawson doing, I hear you ask?
How's Liam Lawson doing, Ted?
Slow but steady.
How is the deceleration? Feels bad.
No, deceleration is good. We see more tailwind into braking turn 11.
So a little bit slower than teammate Isaac Hatchar, but just getting to know the team again and getting to know the car for the first time, Liam Lawson. You can see him at the moment, I think, just making a pit stop, taking the hard tyres off and putting a U set of soft tyres on. But see, you know, even though this is a team racing Bulls, previously RB, previously AlphaTauri, Lawson knows well it's a new engineer, so it's not the same engineer that Lawson had when he was here before. It's Ernesto Desiderio, who was previously Yuki's engineer. Of course, Lawson's replacing it. It's a different side of the garage, not that that matters, but Liam previously was on the left, now he's on the right. And of course, it's a different car, different characteristics, different steering wheel, all of that. So Lawson just taking his time to bed in. But I've got to say, on the other side of the garage, I think he was P8 the last time I looked.
Still is.
Isaac Hadjar with a great little turn of speed around a circuit he doesn't know very well. Really going well so far, Hadjar.
I have to say, Isaac Hadjar, one lap, has a lot of pace in him, Jack.
He has a lot of pace. He's still young. He's still exuberant, and he's realized that when you make a mistake, the whole planet sees it, and that was heavy on his shoulders.
Raining, I know this. I feel like I've been raining already.
Possible that Russell has the beginning of brains. He's on his 4th high fuel lap.
Yeah, I ready. I'm fresh.
Yeah, so he might just be starting it, but I've got it worse.
Yeah, but Norris is the driver that will be the first to get graining. He
Because?
eats up his front tires. I don't know if it's because he has understeer in his car and he needs it as a setup, but with the lap times he's been doing last year, he doesn't seem to be an understeer driver. Maybe he just leans too heavily on his front end and he chews up his front tires.
And by doing so, you're just putting too much energy through those.
Yeah, too much energy. While you're slowing down, you lean a little bit like a Carter would do. You lean on your front end to slow down, and that just kills the front end.
Jacques Villeneuve with us this weekend, and Anthony Davidson too. Already we're seeing marks being left by the plank going down into turn 1 on this newly resurfaced part of the
It
track.
wasn't Lewis's Hamilton plank. I think
It
they've learned that lesson in China.
I hope they've learned that lesson in China. It is Anthony Davidson. It is an unwanted record that Ferrari now have to add to the many records that they've got. The first team in Formula One history to have 2 cars disqualified for 2 different reasons.
Obviously I was aware that they both cars were disqualified, but I didn't realise that was the first.
That is the first.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I mean, both things. These are the tolerances that we work to in Formula One. It's getting more and more competitive all the time, and we know that these cars perform better the lower you can get that floor to the ground, and you can see the result of that. The resin plank, the telltale sign is there, clear to see on this new surface into turn 1. And speaking of turn 1, it's an interesting bit of circuit design there for these cars running DRS, because it's the only single DRS zone on the track down towards that corner. And because turn 1 now is flat out in these cars, you can turn into the corner full throttle. But you can't do that, obviously, when you're running DRS. So as you come out this corner here, riding with Lawson, you see there's the DRS line now, and you'll hold that all the way down the hill when you're in a quali mode or in a race where you're within that 1 second. But as you turn into that corner in qualifying or lower fuel, you can be full throttle. You can't do it when you've got DRS open, so you have to manually close DRS via the steering wheel button instead of normally you'd lift off or brake and the DRS closes because of that. So yeah, it's a little bit of a unique circuit design and not really integrated that well with DRS. Obviously you can't run DRS before 130R for the same reason. So you're a little bit stuck with this circuit and where you can use it. That's why we only have the one zone, and even that is tricky.
Yeah. Just on that subject then, we had the same, didn't we, down the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight at Silverstone? Remember when, was it Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber went off because the DRS didn't shut a few years ago? But if it's okay, Jacques, to do the manual override of the DRS in the turn 1, why can't we have a second DRS zone here and do the same thing again into 130R?
A slippery thumb is very dangerous.
Yeah.
Because if you don't close the DRS, it's surprising. No, because drivers would go through it with the DRS open and it would be dangerous. Years ago, the DRS was allowed there, and the big thing was who could go through 130R with the DRS still open.
Yeah.
And I think a few managed, and that just became ridiculously dangerous, and drivers would actually end up doing it. So it was just safer to take it off. Where turn 1, you have to brake right after, so it's pointless to go in with the DRS open.
I get you. Jacques, thanks ever so much. You've got to go walkies now, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
You
I will
are
run there.
Required down in the paddock. Don't run. You got 5 or 6 minutes. But it's been great to have you with us. Our commentary box high above the grandstand. Got to be said, one of the great views from a commentary box around the world. As I look to my right-hand side and see heading down the hill to complete another lap, Ryu Harikawa in the Alpine. 12th fastest currently, Yuki Tsunoda, one of 2 Japanese drivers on the track currently, 6th fastest. And, well, I think we might be done for most of the performance runs in this session, but Esteban Ocon is currently on a flying lap in the Haas, trying to improve his 20th place, as we see Alex Albon's partner Lily there in the Williams garage. Alex Albon, who's been to see the Prime Minister of Thailand in between China and Japan, discussing plans for the Thailand Grand Prix, the Bangkok Grand Prix. Ocon improves to go 19th fastest. Head down to you.
Down at Red Bull, and first hurdle accomplished by Yuki Tsunoda in the, what are we going to call it, a Japanese Grand Prix steeplechase. There's a long weekend ahead.
From what we see, we don't see damage to the tyres, so if we can push to understand them, that'll be better.
Yeah, but how can you not see my front left screen? It's very obvious.
Is everything not quite yet all cushy in the McLaren camp, is it, Crofty? Despite Lando being quickest over 1 lap. But yeah, I've been impressed at the way Yuki has handled this session. They're on their race runs now, and Yuki's slower than Max Verstappen, sometimes up to about 9/10 of a second, or at least he was on that previous lap. Max did a 1:33.9, Yuki a 1:34.8. Of course, we don't know the engine settings, the fuel settings, and everything, but certainly over 1 lap, only a 10th between them. Again, we don't know all of the settings, but just watching the way Yuki has been in the garage, watching the way he's interacted with the team and his engineers, job done. Good first session for Yuki Tsunoda. It's gone well so far. I've been impressed.
Exactly what he needed. Meanwhile, you'll notice Kimi Antonelli with a lot of dirt on his tyres, Anthony. Did that tailwind into the hairpin at turn 11 catch him out as well?
Yeah, possibly could have. I mean, it's been the same for him every lap. He's gone into there, but here's the replay. Let's have a listen to this. Yeah, it's just grabbed the front left, doesn't it? Similar to what Albon suffered.
Yeah, locked up.
Yeah, just an instant lock-up. Thing is, on most modern circuits you go to, Crofty, that would just be, you'd be on a tarmac runoff area and no harm done. But this circuit is always going to bite you. It's an old school track, and for that I love it. You really have to have your wits about you inside the car, and that really puts you on edge when you drive this circuit. It is high speed. You do have some slow corners like turn 11 hairpin, but most of it's high speed. And if you go off this circuit, you're on grass. The barriers are close proximity to where you go off, and it really is, your heart's in your mouth a lot of the time around this lap.
And they've added gravel as well this year, just to make it even more tricky. But when it comes to that hairpin, you know how you drivers like to brake in a straight line? It's kind of impossible to do that, and you're almost heading for the scene of a lockup if you get it wrong at the kink at turn 10 before 11.
Well, yeah, that's right. So in race mode, as they're all in now, you see Bortoletto, he's on the hard tyre, and they would have topped it up with fuel. And you're now doing race runs, so you're around 5 to 6 seconds slower at this point than what the car is capable of doing with the lower fuel. But listen here. So yeah, you're lifting off and starting to brake through the right-hander, as you point out, but in qualifying, you can actually get through that corner these days, full throttle, get the car pretty much straight. I'd say the best cars out there are capable of doing that pretty much straight before you brake, and that's going to really help. So any motion that you put into the tyre, if you think of it as a percentage, you start off with 100% when the tyre's going in the straight line. If you take out any yaw or rotation in the tyre, any lateral motion when you're trying to accelerate or brake, you're robbing it of its 100% potential. So that's what's going on with the kink before the hairpin, and that's why you see lockups, particularly when you've got a tailwind like we have here today.
Yes, as Bortoletto crosses the line, 18th fastest. If you imagine the main straight, well, as we're riding on board with Esteban Ocon now, at the moment the wind is coming from right to left and slightly behind you. So it's kind of pushing you into turn 1. It's a lovely headwind through the S's, but that hairpin, it's very much a tailwind, which is what Charles Leclerc was complaining about, and the deceleration that he felt was bad could have been down to the tailwind. And that wind speed, 6.2 meters per second, which is on the Croft scale, pretty blowy, I think is what they call that.
Is that the technical term for it? Yeah, I understand that. Pretty blowy. So, yeah, as we watch Ollie Behrman navigate his way through that final chicane, yeah, P18, he just pips his teammate for now as the checkered flag comes out. But, yeah, up until that point, he was sitting plumb last. But, yeah, Haas, they had a good turn of speed in China. We're not seeing that so far here in Suzuka.
I didn't think they were that confident coming into this. By the way, Behrman taking that really short run to the line. Watch that for qualifying, because that's what got him ahead. Excuse me, of his teammate Esteban Ocon. Lock up from Carlos Sainz. He's not going to be using those tyres for very much longer anyway.
Yeah,
into the chicane.
He just doesn't look at home, does he? He doesn't look like he's at home in this car yet, and I'm sure it will come. He's an experienced driver and obviously incredibly fast and well accomplished to be able to get on top of this, but it's always difficult changing teams, and you never know who's gonna survive and who's not. There's no rule of thumb on this one.
He's 5 to 10 races, he says, to unlearn the habits that he picked up at Ferrari that served him so well in his days with the Scuderia. But the checker flag, as you can see, is out. Session has now come to an end, and Lando Norris has made it a perfect hat-trick of FP1 sessions led. 128.5, 10th and a half up on George Russell. I wouldn't say Lando will say it's the best FP1 session he's ever had. There certainly seemed to be a few issues, but he ended up the fastest at the end of it.
He ended up the fastest. I'm not entirely sure what happened to his teammate Oscar Piastri, who's down over a second away. I'm surprised that we got the Mercedes of George Russell so close to the McLaren, and he's up there in P2 is Russell. I'm impressed by Tsunoda. I'm sure Verstappen's going to be a little bit disappointed being down there in P5. The car still doesn't look great, but both Ferraris up there, 3rd and 4th, Crofty. That's a good showing of speed there from them. And Alonso, an impressive P7. So yeah, lots of surprises, but I think Tsunoda, like Ted said, going to come away from this one. All eyes were on him, weren't they? Tsunoda will walk away from at least. He's hit the ground running. FP1, job done. Only a 10th away from your team, or less than a 10th away from your teammate.
And very much so. Let's just focus on ourselves and forget everyone else for the time being.
Yeah, also quite messy. I think, yeah. I could give you feedback, but I found it kind of interesting. But it's not. But yeah, it's okay. Good sesh.
You and I know very well, Anthony Davidson, the word interesting is always really interesting.
Interesting indeed. Yeah, he found the car interesting. But Verstappen said the same thing, didn't he? He was a bit perplexed earlier on in the session when he realised there was something going on with the rear of the car, and you see the level of support that Tsunoda has here from the local crowd. Great to see. And yeah, hopefully he can continue that strong performance throughout the remainder of the weekend for them.
Interesting is neither a criticism nor a compliment. It's interesting.
Very diplomatic, you'd have to say. I would read into that, not entirely happy with the car. But this is the thing with Yuki now. He's in his 5th year as a Formula 1 driver, and with that comes the experience to know what you need from a car and how you work with the engineers to make it to your liking.
Yeah, and I also think that I can give it some feedback. You know, let's take this offline to give it some business pilots. I'll give you some feedback, but I found it quite interesting. We'll go through the debriefs in a little while, but that's what Red Bull are needing from him as well. You know, the mature approach to feedback and driver feedback to try and help them propel themselves up the grid just a little bit more, because
exactly.
it's not been the... Go on.
So sometimes it's really nice as the established driver to hear someone new join the team. I've been in this position myself where a new driver drives the car and suddenly the engineers hang on their every word, because even though it's the kind of things you've been saying all along for years and years, suddenly they listen to somebody new, and it's kind of, it's nice because they're fighting your fight for you, and can often spearhead some changes that you've been longing for in the team. So yeah, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that debrief, Crofty.
Oh, as I'm sure with every other team up and down the grid. But we'll get some comment later on in the day as the Team McLaren drivers make their way back into the garage, and Lando Norris makes his way back in as the man who has led this FP1 session. Now, only 2 of the last 22 Grand Prix have been won by the driver who led FP1, and guess what? It was Lando Norris on both occasions, Melbourne this year and at Zandvoort last year. So in cherry blossom season, is that blooming marvellous for Lando Norris? We'll find out on Sunday, I'm sure. 10th and a half between the McLaren driver and championship leader, and George Russell, who's picked up a couple of podiums in his first 2 races this season. Charles Leclerc, 3rd for Ferrari, ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda separated by a 10th of a second in 5th and 6th. Then came Fernando Alonso and Isaac Hadjar. Impressive showing from him. Kimi Antonelli and Carlos Sainz completing the top 10. Sainz not having all his own way, but he did have more pace over that push lap than his teammate Alex Albon, who was 11th fastest. Ryu Hirakawa can put his feet up now for the rest of the weekend. His FP1 is done. Liam Lawson 13th on his return to Racing Bulls. And it was Gabriel Bortoletto who brought up the rear, just 1.6 seconds separating all 20 drivers. That's FP1 done and dusted. everybody, and a very happy Friday to you. Welcome from the Suzuka circuit to round 3 of this Formula One season in 2025. It is time for second practice ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix, a race that has been won from pole here at Suzuka 18 times out of the previous 34 races. Here's the track, 3.6 miles long, pole to braking zone into turn 1, 277 meters as a dash down the hill into that first braking zone, a top speed of just over 195 miles an hour, 1 DRS zone along the main straight, and 18 corners, 8 to the left and 10 to the right. Now the tyres for this race, C3 is the soft, C2 is the medium, C1 is the hardest compound in the Pirelli range, and that hard tyre seemed to have a fair amount of pace in it in this morning's first practice session, which was headed by Lando Norris, a time of 1:28.54. Compare that to the pole time from last year. We're about 4 tenths behind that, and we've only had one practice session so far, and that Anthony Davidson. That increased lap time could in parts be due to the fact that a large part of this track has been resurfaced since last year.
Yeah, resurfaced circuit, or part of it, from turn 1 through the S's as well, really important part of the track. But on top of that, Crofty, you've got the ongoing development of the cars as well, and they've had a whole season's worth coming back here to Suzuka this time around, and that's reflected in the lap time as well.
Certainly is. So Lando Norris, the only driver in the last 22 Grand Prix to have led FP1 and gone on to win that Grand Prix. Holland last year and Melbourne this year. See if he can carry that form on for the rest of the weekend. That is one of the many flags that are lining this circuit, and as you can see, a very stiff breeze. It's blowing a headwind to the S's, which, Anthony, is exactly what you need for downforce. But guess what? That wind's going to change about 180 degrees in time for practice and qualifying tomorrow.
Yeah, and they'll be simulating that actually overnight after this session. Actually, Crofty, they'll be simulating the effects of that going forward for the remainder of the weekend. But yeah, it's a favourable condition at the moment. The headwind through the S's in this figure of 8 configuration that we have here in Suzuka. It does lend itself well to giving you more downforce on the critical part of the track where you really have to try and carry the speed. A brilliant part of, I'd say, a masterclass of circuit design, Crofty.
Oh, it certainly is. Opened in 1962, John Hugenholtz, the Dutch designer, was the man that designed this circuit, the only figure-of-8 track used on the Formula One calendar, and it is absolutely epic and a joy to be here year after year after year. The joy for McLaren at the moment, they lead the Constructors' Championship by 21 points from Mercedes. Red Bull currently in 3rd place ahead of Williams, who have better points on countback than Ferrari, after Ferrari had their double disqualification, of course, in Shanghai last time out. And we look into the Racing Bull of Isaac Hadjar, who's one Racing Bull driver that's remained exactly where he is in the last couple of weeks. His new teammate is now Liam Lawson, who has dropped down from the Red Bull team, and in his place, promoted up to the senior team, Yuki Tsunoda. And if they were looking for an instant improvement in that second driver at Red Bull, he kind of gave it to them in the first part of practice, Am.
Yeah, he really did. I mean, he's hit the ground running, hasn't he, has Yuki? But I must say, going back to Isaac Hadjar, Crofty, I think that he's done, since that oopsie that he had in Melbourne, and he really beat himself up for it, since then, he's really impressed me. And I think, I spoke to his engineer as well, Pierre Hamlin, and he said that, yeah, so far he's been super impressed with him. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing his progress.
I caught a chat, actually, with Lauren Mekis, the team principal at Racing Bulls. Just very brief chat in the paddock, and we were talking about Isaac, and I said, he's quick over one lap. He went, no, he's very quick over several laps as well. Don't worry about that one. He's got a real potential and could be an absolute star for the future. And he then went on to talk about Yuki and say how pleased he was that he got the promotion that he deserved, given the maturity that he's shown ever since the disappointment of last year, where it became apparent that he wasn't going to get the Red Bull seat, at least for a couple of races.
I think they've now got themselves into a much better position with the driver lineup. It feels like both Racing Bulls and Red Bull, they've got the lineup I feel like they should have started this year with having Yuki there. And I know it's early days. We've only had FP1, and sure, things can go wrong for Yuki from this point onwards, but I just feel like this is what the decision should have been from word go this season.
Well, no, I totally agree with you. We were saying it a lot during practice sessions towards the back end of last year, and I'm surprised it has taken until now for that decision to be made. And you know, I suppose you can look at it two ways from Liam's perspective. Disappointment, of course, that he's been dropped after 2 races and at tracks that he's never raced at before, especially going into this racetrack where Liam has raced at because he was in Japanese Super Formula and not given the chance on a racetrack that he was familiar with to show what he could do in that Red Bull. But if you're going to make a decision, you know, make it and stick to it. And at least he is still one of the 20 drivers driving in Formula 1. And as Lauren Mecky's pointed out, with a point or two to prove this week, so needs no extra motivation from him.
Yeah, you know, he needs no extra motivation, but also he's got a tough customer in Isaac Hadjar, isn't he? It's not like he can just drop back into the junior team and hone his skills there out of the spotlight. No, far from it. He's got to continue to up his game if he's to prove himself to the bosses at Red Bull that have demoted him to the Racing Bulls team.
Yeah, and Isaac's been in that car and has driven it in pre-season testing and in 1 race and a sprint so far.
Something is wrong with the car. It's bouncing like crazy into turn 13.
He's come out for
Check rear heat.
He's come out for 1 lap, has Carlos Sainz, before going back into the garage. What's
so yeah,
be the issue there?
He's asked to check the rear heave spring. So that's the central spring that controls the rear ride of the car. So it's not your...
Oh,
like
okay, well the
spring,
bike
not the
apparently
rubber
wants
car.
me to do like
Up and down motion of the rear. So he's feeling
130
something
cadence.
potentially wrong there. I think, Crofty, we can go down
So
to
let's
10.
reset the bike and get back
Right
in here.
outside the garage, yes.
I am. Can you see me out the commentary box window, Crofty?
And I'll be
Yes.
waving.
Hello. If I turn around, I'll wave back. Yeah, I was actually down here because I wanted to catch a word with team boss James Vowles to find out whether Carlos Sainz was running a different tub to the one he ran in China. Carlos Sainz couldn't confirm it either way yesterday. So I've been while waiting for James Vowles, who's still not on the pit lane, on the pit wall. Carlos Sainz surprised the mechanics and came back in. First thing now they're doing is taking off the engine cover to get access to the rear suspension, to try and understand exactly what is wrong with this car. And that is worrying because one of the things, if you weren't with us, if you didn't join us at 3 in the morning,
What an epic ride that looks like, huh?
okay. Secondly, I don't blame you. Thirdly,
Like if I could do this in VR,
because Crofty,
wow, 239 kilometers. So you're looking at
small hours to join his team remotely. Of course, he intends to come to the Japanese Grand Prix. Hasn't for the last few years. I did ask Andrew Shovlin, we'll get onto it maybe a bit later, whether Toto had been on the intercom, and Shovlin said no, he hadn't. So if you didn't get up in the morning, I think you and Toto are sharing some common understanding there. But also, you wouldn't have seen that it really, along with McLaren being quickest, graining was the problem. Tyre graining was the problem. And if you want a little demonstration, go down to the kitchen, or if you're already watching this in the kitchen, either get some grains of rice, spread them out onto your kitchen table, and run your finger over the grains of rice. And if you see how quickly your finger moves over a load of grains of rice, then that is the tyre sliding its way over the track and not being grippy. Or maybe you can crush. Have you ever tried crushing some Rice Krispies, Anthony? Or Crofty?
We've all made Rice Krispie cakes, Ted.
If you crush them on your kitchen table, then your finger moves quite quickly over there. Graining at a much more micro level, Crofty and Anthony.
The things Ted Kravitz encourages people to do at the wee small hours.
And then imagine it's a tyre on a track.
My analogy of graining is something everyone can visualize. Is when you just take a rubber and start rubbing it along the paper, and it starts to feather up, doesn't it? And those little bits that come off, they're your marbles at the side of the track. But while it's going through that phase of shedding the rubber, that's the graining. So it's exactly the same process that the tyres go through, and actually it's probably due to the fact, Crofty, that you've got this new surface on some of the track, and it's new, tighter surface. They call it the macro and the micro of the surface. That it's the micro that causes the graining. So this new part that we're on now, as we ride on board with Lando Norris, this darker surface that he's on, new surface, and it's that tighter grain of the surface that's going to do the damage to the tyre. It does yield more grip, but in the same way as you pushing that rubber along the paper, it's the same thing going through these corners now for these tyres.
While you're clearing up the mess made by rubbers, Rice Krispies, other cereals are available, and rice, you might want to ride on board with any of the 20 drivers in this practice session. There's your QR code to help you out on that one. You only need one hand. You can clear up the kitchen with your other. If you're watching Sky Stream, Sky Q or Sky Glass, or now, use the interactive button on your remote control as Lando Norris heads into the hairpin tailwind at turn 11. Which means, Anthony, we probably need to be a little more generous if drivers are locking up there, because it's very easy to carry more speed than you're intending.
Yeah, you carry more speed into the corner, but it's more that the car just goes light when you press the brake pedal as well, and it's not exactly what you're expecting. Norris will be now driving away from that wind again on this figure-of-8 circuit. It's harder in many ways to imagine where the wind is as you're driving, and that's why you sometimes hear the drivers asking their engineer if the wind has picked up or changed direction. You need that help. You've got a yellow flag out there somewhere.
We've got a yellow flag because Jack Doohan has gone off in the Alpine, and he's gone off at the first corner. And as you can see, has gone in pretty hard into the barrier there, and we've got a red flag, and I'm not surprised. One of the tyres has come off completely, and that's a lot of damage done to Jack Doohan's car, which was on its 4th lap of this session and his 4th lap of the day. Jack, if you weren't with us for FP1, was replaced by Ryo Harakawa for that session and had to sit it out whilst the young rookie completed that practice session. And he's okay, which is really, really good to know. And there's the doctor and the medical staff rushing to his assistance. Now, Anthony, he has gone in very, very hard into that first corner there.
I'm surprised.
So I don't know if that's driver error or there was a problem with the brake-by-wire system, but I mean, what speed are you doing? Round about 160 miles an hour as you turn into turn 1.
Yeah, because it plummets down the hill into there, Crofty, that you actually end up running a pretty similar speed to that of the longer straight up the hill to 130R. The only thing I can imagine is that he was using DRS into that corner and didn't deactivate it quick enough. That's my only theory here at the moment, but perhaps something has sent him off. That's a hard hit, and actually the car is pretty much capable of taking turn 1 full throttle these days. They have that amount of grip. That's the only explanation I can have, and maybe the tailwind as well into that corner wouldn't have helped, but yeah, you can see the dark lines as it's crossed over in the mid-corner point and straight through the gravel.
Yeah, we're waiting for a replay obviously on that one, but we want to make sure that Jack is absolutely okay first and foremost before we analyse what happened.
Yeah, hearing reports.
And he said,
sorry, hearing reports that he might have just dipped his left wheel on the grass on the way into the corner.
Oh dear. He did ask on the team radio, I'm okay, but what happened? Because he wasn't quite sure himself. That's a big repair job. That's a lot of damage. That's exactly what Jack Doohan did not need at the start of his first practice session of the weekend here at Suzuka. And it's not exactly a track that he's familiar with, Jack Doohan, either.
Very gingerly stepping out of the car. He says he's okay, but do you see how slowly he was getting himself out of the car there? That's shaking him up a bit, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to say not exactly familiar. He has raced here before in the Asian Formula 3 Championship. I think he won a couple of races. But there's a big difference going into turn 1 at full pelt in an F1 car to going in a Formula 3 car at full pelt.
Absolutely. That's Ryo Hirakawa watching on thinking, well, I'm glad I didn't do that when I drove the car earlier on.
Absolutely, it was on the hard tyre, so whether they weren't sufficiently warmed up properly and giving him the grip that he would have expected. You get onto the grass there, there's no purchase whatsoever as you're turning in. Let's have a look now. We can see riding on boards, and as you can see, a sharp descent down towards turn 1. Watch for that outside left wheel. Or was it the rear that dipped into the grass? Ooh, that's heavy.
From this angle, it didn't look like he did dip the left rear wheel. Maybe we'll see a better angle here. No,
I don't think he did.
I didn't actually catch whether he had DRS open or not, Crofty. There, did you spot it? I was looking for the wheel.
No, I did exactly the same as yourself, I'm afraid, there, my friend.
But that did let go incredibly quick. I would not have expected that.
Mate, you all okay?
I'm okay, yeah. What happened?
Okay, we're just looking at everything on our side here.
I think the car just might have bottomed out, Crofty.
Yeah. I don't know about you. I'm not seeing driver error on that one.
It doesn't look like it. I know these cars are capable of taking that corner flat out on the approach. So it looked to me like the only thing I can see is that if it wasn't DRS, I don't think he was actually using it. Whether it was the car just bottoming so heavily. I mean, we heard Sainz complaining. I know it's a different car, but Sainz complaining earlier that suddenly like the rear heave of the car didn't feel right, bottoming out a lot through the spoon curve. Well, turn one's a lot faster than spoon curve, and if you've got any kind of bottoming, then you just the car would just sit down too much and bring the wheels off the ground, and you're just a passenger. It looked to me like he was just a passenger there.
Yeah, I got exactly the same feeling. Red flag, whilst the marshals do a very good job to repair the tyre barrier and to clear away the debris, and I can see a digger going down to turn 1 at the moment and some new tyres to aid with that barrier repair. At about 160 miles an hour as he heads into turn 1. As he turns, there's just no grip, and he is but a passenger as the car slams into the tyre barrier. We wondered, was he using DRS? From that angle, it looks like he wasn't. The DRS is operated manually in terms of closed manually going into that corner because you don't brake. You turn in, and these cars are capable of taking it full throttle. But as you can see there, just no grip whatsoever for Jack Doohan.
From the moment he's turned in, he's just had no rear at all in the car. The rear just snaps around immediately. Isaac Hadjar following, sees the car go off, sees the plume of gravel smoke and dust, and
Wow, big crash. Big crash, red flag. Oh my god.
yeah, he called it right. He called it straight away. You needed red flagging, and
Exactly.
yeah,
And that's what has been done. So let's go down to the pit lane. Ted is right outside the Alpine garage.
Yeah, pretty shocking, Crofty, for everybody watching at home. Enough to make you wince, really. And I'm sure it's the same for everybody watching not only in the Alpine garage, but also on the pit wall. The chief engineer, Dave Greenwood, now sort of figuring out what to do with the rest of the engineers. The mechanics watching those replays, just like we were, and figuring out what they're going to need to do. I think there'll definitely be a call to get the spare chassis out of the box and to get that ready to be worked on. As for what on earth caused it, Crofty, a couple of suggestions from down here. Firstly, the wind has picked up, and it's a proper tailwind, pushing the cars from the rear down into turn 1. So it's more pronounced a tailwind than it was earlier.
This thing's being a piece of shit. Alright, let's see if this thing can do it. Anytime I get into like 80 RPM, it just automatically just bumps me straight into like 110, 120. So I'm hoping there's nothing wrong with the cadence sensor. But I unplugged it completely and plugged it back in, so let's see if it still works. Hopefully it does. Let's I mean, there's nothing wrong with the app. App works well. This has just been my bike.
yeah, we have, Ted, and yeah, but I think these cars do touch the ground. We know that they have to run them low to gain their downforce. If you go too low, like Science reported, the bottoming can become a real issue and can send the car around. That's why he pitted so quickly after the install lap. But the wind picking up could be a thing as well, definitely. These cars really don't like a tailwind. We saw the cars going off continuously in turn 11, for example. That's a much slower speed corner, and the way it reacted, it's for me, it's one of those two things.
Yeah, that seems to be a consensus of opinion. It's just some early analysis that it did indeed bottom out. I'm looking out of my commentary box window at the moment. There's a huge amount going on down at turn 1, and somewhere down near that corner is Jacques Villeneuve, the 97 world champion, is with us this weekend. Jack, how are you?
Oh, I am great.
Should I clear out my connections?
Better than doing here. And we can see there's a lot of trucks still here, so a lot of damage was done to the wall. Well, think about it. When they go into that corner, they're over 300 kilometers an hour. The cars are heavy, over 4 Gs. That's over 4 tons. And there's not much slowing down before he hit that wall because it was dusty. It was on the outside, so the car wasn't slowing down. And the amount of weight that wall received was enormous. So you can see there are a lot of damage and when you're standing here, you can tell that it's all downhill, a little bit of banking, and with the amount of downforce these cars have, and it was visible. I was in the S section after turn 3, 4, 5 before the red flag, and it was so impressive to see the cars go around. They were glued to the ground. It was impressive. It didn't look human at all. And at that speed, the amount of downforce they have, there's no reason for a car to lose it. Unless there's something going wrong, unless the aero balance is completely off, or the car is bottoming out and suddenly there's no more air going under, and you lose a couple of tons of downforce suddenly, just at the wrong moment, because it was a quick snap. It wasn't a slide. The car just lost it, same as when you have a suspension failure or something. So yeah, it did look like suddenly he lost all the downforce on the rear end. Maybe the front end went down a bit, sent the center of pressure forward. And he was also quite aggressive when he turned in. So he went in thinking, there's too much downforce here. This is not the issue. The issue comes in later in the corner when they have to start braking. But that's not where he lost it. He lost it before it. So that was extremely surprising. And I think he was shocked. He wasn't expecting it. So he was a little bit slow in his reaction as well. But he was a passenger by that point, and he knew that the impact was be quite strong. And you could hear it in his voice on the radio. He was a little bit out of breath. So we're not used to seeing those moments in F1 anymore, these big impacts like this, but it looks like it was well absorbed. Well, hopefully they can repair it quickly, but it looks like they have a lot of work to do. Anyway, that turn 1 where he lost it, it looks easy on TV, but for the drivers, it's so impressive because you know that you have to slow down for turn 2. You arrive with a speed that visually feels it's too much, but somehow you know the car will stay on the track, and this time it didn't.
Certainly didn't. Thanks, Jack. Great to have you with us this weekend. From turn 1 back down to the pit lane. Ted.
So the crash, thank you, Crofty. The crashed Alpine chassis has just made its way back into the pit lane. Don't know if you can see out of your commentary box window. It won't be shown by the cameras because the cameras shouldn't see the remnants of this chassis. It is quite shocking. If you have a look out of your commentary box window to the last corner, Crofty, you might be able to see it's actually going to be inspected by the FIA, and then it's going to be returned to the Alpine team. I can see the FIA technical guys having a look at the chassis and what's left of it of Jacques Doohan, and then Alpine will recover it to the garage. In fact, I think you can just see 3 Alpine mechanics making their way up to the start of the pit lane just in front of me with a dolly and a cover. But yeah, I think that's almost, well, I think it's certain that chassis will need returning to the factory. And but it's interesting how the FIA, of course, they're here for the driver's safety, the team's support and their safety as well. It's interesting how, you know, for any of this, the FIA need to learn lessons from any incident that happens like this,
exactly.
high-speed crash like that.
Which is why they'll go and give it an examination. So in 6 minutes' time, we will resume the practice session. At the moment, George Russell with the fastest time, 1:29.6, 3/10 ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Two minutes to go to the resumption of the second practice session. We've got as a cue Anthony Davidson. Hilarious. They all sit there waiting in the garages, and as soon as one car blinks and moves out, the rest all speedily follow. And if you're caught napping, you can lose several places. Fair play to Charles Leclerc, who was a little later leaving his garage, but he's managed to fight his way into the queue, and I think Lewis Hamilton's going to have to allow someone to let him in.
Yeah, Lewis didn't quite make it, did he? Charles did, but Lewis hasn't. But I'm sure somebody will let him in, Crofty. Surely, you know they're all gentlemen out there.
Now look, so that you can see, the Ferrari there at an angle behind his teammate. I mean, look, would you let Lewis Hamilton? Would you, as a Brit who's fond of queuing and knows that you should stick to your place in the queue and never push in, would you allow Lewis Hamilton to move in?
Only if he wasn't going to hold me up, Crofty. Which I'm sure he wouldn't. But yeah, this circuit, it's with the high-speed cornering that it has, you get the temperature into your tyres in no time at all. So that's not a concern. Hence, they're all out there quite early at the end of the pit lane. So they don't need to leave the blankets on till last minute to get out. It's not like a Las Vegas situation. Far from it here. You can very easily generate with those high-speed corners. You generate the temperature in the tyre by squidging them around with all that high-speed grip that they'll have through corners like turn 3, 4, 5 to that lovely flowing sequence of corners there.
Just out of interest, I was reading the Pirelli preview from the tyre supplier to this Japanese Grand Prix. And I wrote down here their prediction that lap times are expected to reduce by 1.5 seconds compared to 2024. Well, Max Verstappen had the fastest time in FP1 last year with a 1:30.0, and Lando Norris had the fastest time in FP1 with a 1:28.5, which even with my rudimentary maths, says that's 1.5 seconds quicker than it was last year.
It's almost like they know what they're
Pirelli, is it?
It's almost like they know what they're talking about.
It could be the most accurate prediction of the weekend. We shall see. As we have a green light now, and we are ready to get going again. Will people come straight out on the soft tyre, or will they still want to do a bit of setup work before they go for race runs? Or as that's, well, we've got a bit of a mixture. George Russell, I think, has come out in the hard tyre. Lando Norris on the soft tyre. We could get a mix of programs going on the track at the same time here.
Yeah, I did see a couple of the hard runners waiting their turn in the pit lane. Now what you're going to get, Crofty, is this situation where the drivers now don't want to follow each other too closely. Another byproduct of such a high-speed circuit is that it causes a lot of turbulence, not just the wind that we have today. Around the circuit, you get the turbulence coming off the rear end of the car in front. So you want to give yourself around 3 to 4 seconds worth of clear space. So now, after queuing up in the pit lane, they're all waiting for the next one to drive off slowly in front of them.
Yeah, that queue's still going on, by the way. We are nowhere near the end of the queue as yet. And, well, the first car out was Lando Norris, and he's just about to get to 130R, whilst there's still 4 or 5 cars that haven't made their way out onto the track yet. The importance of getting up early and being in that queue before anyone else. Lando Norris on the soft tyre along with his teammate Oscar Piastri, Hulkenberg, and Tsunoda and Alonso also on the softs, Gasly and Ocon. And here comes Lando Norris, DRS open as you can see, Ant, to do his performance lap, his qualifying lap.
Yeah, and he looks
medium tyres that he's on, not the soft that it said on our
no, that's definitely medium, and yeah, he's definitely pushing, and didn't look like he was deterred at all by what he saw on his screen earlier on from Jack Doohan. He's got a bit of traffic there by the Haas and shows how disappointed he was in being held up. That's a little bit of F1 road rage there, Crofty.
Yeah, Esteban Ocon was the driver in the Haas that Lando Norris was not particularly impressed with.
It's part of the problem. Yeah, it has ruined his lap. It's part of the problem of being the first one, or one of the first ones in that queue, is that you meet the people that have only just ventured out onto the track from all of this waiting nonsense.
There are 2 cars not on the track. Jack Doohan, obviously. Max Verstappen is the other one. So they've decided, what's the point of being out there at the moment, because they're not going to get clear track and they're not going to get the chance to do what they want. so they might as well stay in the garage. That's my theory. It could be all manner of reasons. There's a whole heap of photographers outside the Verstappen garage waiting for him to get on the track again. Charles Leclerc is on the track, as you can see, coming out of the hairpin now in a weekend that will mark his 150th Grand Prix start, the 47th driver to reach that target. Max is just coming out onto the track now.
Oh, and I think he's had the delights of the slower cars. I think that might have been Ocon again, roughly in front of him, and he's got a car in front of him. So yeah, Leclerc
that time.
Leclerc Behrman, yeah, with Antonelli in front of him. So yeah, Leclerc was heavily compromised in Spoon Corner, but he's pushing on nevertheless. Through the final chicane he goes. Oh, and just missed the apex of turn 17, the left-hander, and that resulted in a huge tank slapper for him. He only goes P5 there on that lap. Lost a lot of time.
We've got another red flag here because Fernando Alonso, out of the first Degner, has come to a standstill down by the second Degner on that track map there. But something has happened to Fernando Alonso's car. There you go. Like I say, out of the first Degner, he's managed to get beached in the gravel and, as he says, is stuck. Oh dear, what's happened here? That's why the car's stuck. A lot of weight at the rear end there, and that's right rear tyre. It's absolutely beached. And you can see how breezy it is with the dust that's been blown off the top of the gravel by the gusty wind here.
Almost as if to say, look, this is the reason I came off. You see that wind, what it's doing to the gravel? That's what it did to my car. I'm sure this one will be that tailwind, Crofty, into that corner. So, wow. Even catches out the most experienced of them.
It certainly does. Look, you can hear the wind as well on the microphones there. Pointless in the opening two races. Fernando Alonso for the first time since 2017. And this is why he's come a cropper in this practice session. Into the first Degner we go now. That looked like he was on the grass as he turned in, Anthony.
He did, yeah. It's really important to maximise the width of the circuit there. And he's just gone a bit too far. So it wasn't the wind after all, it was just driver error. Yeah, dips the wheel momentarily. That's all it takes. But it's one of those corners you often see drivers not maximising the width of the track because you're looking to the right of the curb at Degner 1, and it's almost like you need a sixth sense to judge the width of the car as you veer to the left before turning right, and that's just too much over.
I'm stuck in turn 8. Oh, good. Bit of bounce, you know, something strange on the entry.
Yeah, we all saw
was it bouncing that put him to the side of the track, or was it going to the grass and then the bouncing follow?
Yeah, the grass tends to be a bit rougher than the tarmac, a bit more bumpy. So yeah, you lose grip and also you lose the ride of the car as well at the same time. So and that's the thing, he's probably completely unaware that he's dipped the wheel off the track there in that moment, and will feel a little bit almost a little bit embarrassed when you see what you've done. But these cars are so wide, 2 meters wide, and that's a great shot. You really get to see how much grass was kicked up. But it's a hard corner to get right because you do need to run it right to that white line. You just see it beyond the grass there in front of us. It's that white line is exactly where you need the outside of your tyres to be, but that's too much.
That's 6 inches too much. And yeah, once you go off the track in the two Degner corners, you're into the gravel or the barrier, depending on how your luck's going. And well, for the mechanics there, they don't want to see the car out there, but their luck's probably going their way because they haven't got a major rebuild to try and sort out.
Yeah, they're lucky that the car didn't find its way into the barrier. So yeah, although it looks a bit worse for wear, it's only dust, and the bottom of the car's probably taken a bit of a hit as well over that curb at high speeds, on the exit curb, I should say. But that could have been a lot worse. Usually when you see a car go off in either one of the Degners, it hits the barrier at some point.
Great shot there of the floor of the tea tray area on the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. Looks like a giant garden fork with a few more prongs attached to it. It's like they're to trying to scoop up bits on the track, but you don't often get a shot looking straight down on that Aston Martin. So yeah, it's interesting to see. Andy Cowell, team principal and CEO of Aston Martin, is with us on the pit wall. Fine margins as ever here, Andy. If you're 6 inches to the left, you're often into the gravel, and sadly for Fernando, that's what happened.
Yeah, he was pushing very hard. So you know, quick lap, and like you say, it's fine margins, isn't it?
So that's rather ruined one run plan, because he won't come back out again. Jack Doohan's red flag forced a change in your run plan full stop. So what can you now get out of this session? Can you get a qualifying run and a race run in, do you think?
I think we need to see what time we think the track's going to open again, work out how much time there is, and then adapt accordingly. So yeah, we'll see what we can get done.
Andy, it's Anthony here, back at the studio at Sky. It looked like a pretty strong session in FP1 after chewing through the data. What's your analysis of it?
Yeah, hi Anthony. Yeah, we're pleased, cautiously pleased with the way it's gone. Just need to keep our feet on the ground, make sure that we get a good setup. Wind direction's scheduled to change tomorrow, and as you know, that can have a big impact on car characteristics. So yeah, let's see what we can learn from Lance's car over the remaining part of this session, and then move forward.
Andy, while we're talking, and we've got like a minute and a bit before we get going again, this time next year, this will be the home race for your power unit supplier. So can we ask how the Honda project is going at the moment? And as a man with a lot of experience when it comes to F1 power units, how satisfied are you with what you're seeing?
Yeah, next year we're works team with Honda. I was at their factory on Wednesday, and super impressed with their facility, their attitude, their sense of fun as well. So yeah, they're pushing hard, developing well, and looking forward to working with them and racing with them next year.
Do you have any idea as to how good or not the unit might be as yet?
I think as ever in this game, you know, everybody sets targets, everybody goes chasing after your own targets. You try and set ambitious ones, but it's not until you get racing, and like you say, this time next year we will be racing together, that you really know where you are against your opponents, and whether you're good enough to be on the podium or not.
We have a question from Ted for you.
Yeah, just a quick one. Lance Stroll has jumped the queue, Andy, and is doing a practice start at the end. Does he have to let all the drivers in the queue pass him before he does his practice start, or can he do his practice start and then join the run of cars as the lights go green?
I've not been keeping an eye on that one, Ted. I've been chatting to you guys.
Okay,
so,
well, it's a
sorry,
stroke.
Ted.
It's a absolute masterstroke by Lance Stroll. Oh, somebody's actually gone off onto the grass. There's lots of people on the pit exit trying to get out there.
That was Antonelli.
Antonelli, yeah. The answer is actually Lance is being very good boy, and he's letting everybody else pass before he does his practice start.
Thanks ever so much, Ted. Andy, thank you too. Now we've got going again, we'll let you get back to the action. We almost had a bit of action there. Kimi Antonelli and Max Verstappen. They were kind of racing in a practice session style, Ant.
From what I saw, Crofty, it looked more like it was Russell that...
oh no, so you are right.
Yeah, he sort of barged his way by a little bit and ended up going onto the grass. There's Lance on the right-hand side trying to wait to do a start, and then George picks up the pace, and then yeah, that's the puff of grass that we saw the dust come up.
That makes a lot more sense as to why these two started racing then, because there's no love lost whenever they get together.
No love lost at all, and then finally works his way by through turn 2. So a very feisty George Russell there.
Oh dear, it's all that time spent waiting in the garage to start getting on with things. So we've got Alonso and Doohan not taking part in the rest of this session. Tsunoda, Antonelli, Behrman, Albon and Norris all still in the garage.
So what do you prioritise at this stage, Crofty? Is it, we see some soft tyre runners there, Leclerc being one of them, who leads this.
I think they're all on the soft tyres, those that are out on the track.
So they are prioritising the quali simulation rather than trying to gather information on what's going to happen to the tyres on the longer runs. They had a bit of that, a bit of a flavour in FP1, so now this is the important part of the session. With only 17 minutes remaining, they really have to get some useful times on the board and some useful information as to what the car feels like on lower fuel on the softer tyre.
Take us through Dunlop Curve we go with the rest of this lap with Charles Leclerc.
So we're coming up to the area where Alonso touched the grass, and we go onto the nose cam now of Degner 2. Get on power nice and early, takes you under the bridge, and then you'll hear the brakes come on, decelerate into turn 11. He goes for quite a tight line initially and then lets the car flow out wider. Interesting to see the different lines that the drivers take in turn 11 because it's a banked corner. Then you climb up the hill all the way up towards Spoon Curve 13 here, and then turn 14 at this apex there. Then on the power, use a lot of the curb on the outside to go down the hill initially and then climb steadily up. So you're back over that bridge section now before 130R. Flat out through here, fingertip stuff through there, get the car to the left hand side, hope these cars don't get in your way, over the curb on the right, touch the curb on the left as well, get the car straight to maximise your traction and then take the shortest line of attack through that final curve of turn 18.
A 1:28.6 for Charles Leclerc. George Russell crosses the line, goes slightly faster by 5/100ths of a second. Lewis Hamilton is within touching distance of the fastest time as well. And on board now with Max Verstappen, who's a couple of tenths off the pace through the first two sectors, ends up a tenth behind. Third fastest, Pierre Gasly, 2 tenths down on George Russell. Super lap from him in the Alpine as Hamilton now goes fastest by 23 milliseconds. Click of a fingers, probably even quicker. Bortoletto goes 6th fastest as he crosses the line. Lando Norris, as you can see, out there on these soft tyres, as is Oscar Piastri, and Isaac Hadjar now goes to the top of 1:28.5, which matches the fastest time that we had in the morning session for FP1. Through with Piastri we go now towards Spoon Curve. Such a crucial corner as Lawson goes third fastest to get right on entry and Anthony on exit 2.
Absolutely, you can see the issues that the drivers are facing there, Crofty, with even Piastri and probably the best car out there suffering with the rear at that moment. And yeah, in fact, he goes fastest in the middle sector. See at the bottom of your screen, that purple sector, sector 2. And then we come into the final part, this tricky right, left chicane, and the rear doesn't like it as he tries to get on power. He wasted a bit of time there, only goes P2, but look how close the times are, as you pointed out before.
Less than a tenth of a second separated at the top 6. Lando Norris has rather made mincemeat of that particular stat.
He
just popped up with a 1:28.1. Shall we just say 2nd to 7th is very, very tight. You can probably put Verstappen and Gasly in there, and we got another red flag.
No.
Ocon going very slowly out of the hairpin at turn 11. And I wonder if that is why we had this red flag. Everyone else, oh no, we got fire on the grass. It's like Shanghai last year. If you remember, the sparks from the cars last year set fire to the turf in Shanghai. Well, I dare say exactly the same thing has happened here at Suzuka, and that is the exits of turn 11. Jacques Villeneuve is trackside for us.
Well, yes, we're looking at the chicane, and it was super interesting, but now we can see the fire there, and I'm wondering if it's not just the plank, the sparks we see every time, because if you look at the wind, it is blowing from the track to where the grass is, and the planks, when they hit the ground, they make some sparks, and it hit the grass, and there's a little bit of smoke there, which is crazy, because you wouldn't expect a little bit of fire now, so shows you how hot it gets under the plank there. Well, it's a shame because we won't see the cars going, but that's quite a surprise.
We're just seeing a replay now of the Sauber of Hulkenberg and the Ferrari of Hamilton and the sparks that are coming from under the car. The wind is blowing those sparks straight onto the grass on the left-hand side. Ted Kravitz called this earlier on in our coverage today as just how parched and dry the grass looked here at Suzuka. And on a day where the wind is gusting and is really, really strong, it's not a surprise that we're seeing the sparks blown onto the side of the track and a fire start as a result, because we had this obviously in Shanghai, didn't we, 12 months ago.
I remember
Wow.
I remember Ted mentioning that at the start of FP1. I remember thinking that's a bit of a random fact that he's thrown in there about the grass looking a bit yellow. But who knew it was going to be a session stopper, Crofty?
Wow, it's happened before. That really has. I tell you what, and all this is doing is throwing the cap truly amongst the pigeons for Sunday's race, because no team are going to have some decent long-run data to take into Sunday's race from this session. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, so all the teams thinking, oh no, what is it now? Oh, I don't believe it. It's a fire on the grass again. And coming back into the garage and just thinking about how they treat, what have we got? 10 minutes left, Crofty?
11, yes.
Yeah, okay, so hopefully it's going to be 10, maybe 9 minutes of running if they manage to get that fire put out quickly. And then I can see, certainly down at the McLaren garage, Lando Norris quickest so far, and the fuel Bowser is well and truly on. Actually, now it comes off. So that fuel hose wasn't on for very long. So maybe they're not going to put too much fuel in it before they send him out again, hopefully. But yeah, no, I mean, part of the thing about saying how brown the grass was, normally after a sort of, a winter, I'm used to coming here, obviously we're used to historically coming here in October, where after a hot summer you'd be used to the grass being quite sort of yellow and parched.
Well, it's also a lot wetter in October, isn't it?
Yes, it's wetter then, but also, I think it's been a particularly dry winter. Up north, they've had a lot of snow in Japan this year. It's been quite a good year if you're a Japanese skier or snowboarder, but down south here, past Nagoya, it's been very dry, so the locals tell me. Well, Kaz Kawai from Fuji TV, what are you laughing at, has been telling me it's been quite dry. Well, so that's why we've not seen. I mean, I've been coming here for 28 years, and you normally see the grass much greener than this.
What I was laughing at was a fan putting up a picture of Brad Pitt, a face of Brad Pitt in front of their face. We're used to seeing Sonny Hayes here at a racetrack, and looking over the pits, Mr. Pitt, on this occasion.
You've got to get one of your faces out there, Crofty. Giant Crofty face.
That's exactly what we don't need, to be fair. Do you know what? We've lost 31 minutes from the first 2 red flags, and we've lost another 5 minutes. So it's 36 minutes of this session we have lost so far to red flags for the Jack Doohan crash, for the Fernando Alonso skirmish onto the gravel, and from the grass fire and the sparks that were blown onto the side of the track.
Makes you wonder what they did. Makes you wonder, Crofty, how many red flags? What's the record for how many red flags we've had in a session?
We've definitely had 3 before. 4 or 5, I would imagine, would be the record on that one. But I remember a qualifying session with at least 3 red flags here before. The reason why, by the way, Ted noticed the grass is we've been looking at these helicopter pictures of the Suzuka circuit. We haven't actually had a helicopter filming here since 1995. It is brilliant to get those aerial shots. So well done to our colleagues at Formula One Management and F1 for getting the chopper up in the skies and beaming those pictures down, because Suzuka does look absolutely splendid from that aerial shot. What did I say? 36 minutes, make that 38 minutes by the time we get going, because we're going to get a resumption. We're going to get a resumption very, very shortly. And all they can do, Anne, is those that didn't get a qualifying performance run in, try and get a performance run in, or in the case of George Russell on the hard tyre, get as many laps as they can in, 3 or 4 maybe, before that checkered flag.
Exactly, for the drivers and the teams that do now have some data from the soft tyre run, you just go out there for the rest of the session praying there's not going to be another red flag with 7.5 minutes to go. They gather some data on the different tyre, but it's really not ideal, and I'm not sure really what they're going to learn at this point, but you have to be out there. So yeah, you see the likes of George Russell on the hard tyre. He did a good lap, or good enough lap earlier on the soft, so they're doing their homework here. Lewis on the right hand side, he's going to do a a practice start as well, so there's a little bit more information gathered from their side at Ferrari. But no, it really hasn't been ideal for the teams.
No, it hasn't. Should we talk about Lando Norris, as we now have the green light? It was very, very congested at the top of the timings until he put in his qualifying lap. A 1:28.1 from Lando Norris, which is a fine lap and 3.5 tenths faster than his nearest rival.
Yeah, I spotted an onboard of him earlier on, and he was looking really precise. Had ironed out a lot of the issues that he was suffering with from FP1, particularly the final chicane, and it just looked like his car placement was absolutely on point, exactly where you want to put it, and where he was carrying the speed as well. You've got to be smart around this track, Crofty, where you carry the speed, because...
Do you think he's learned quite a bit from his escapades at the final chicane in FP1?
Yeah, combined with a bit of car setup as well, probably. A good look through the data, and that's where having a really competitive teammate helps as well. You can see how they're tackling this very tricky race circuit, so it can help to fast forward your learning curve. But I did see a very different a different style, not style, but a different placement of the car and confidence in how much speed he could carry in certain corners on the track when I saw him earlier on. So I'd like to see that lap, the whole lap later on as well. I think it must have been a nice tidy one.
Both Racing Bulls got a performance lap in. Max Verstappen got a performance lap in, and both Racing Bulls were ahead of the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. As we just watched George Russell making his way to the Degnas, the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc ahead of him, and Leclerc is absolutely entitled to be there if he wants to, because it is a practice session. And George Russell showing there at what happens if you get a bit too close.
A bit too close and a bit too eager on the power as well. So Russell here on the harder tyre, he's keen just to drive flat out, whereas the Ferrari in front on the soft tyre is more focusing on what's to come the lap later. So he's doing a proper kind of warm-up lap on the soft tyres, and Russell's just thinking, I just want to get on with this.
Yeah, and then getting a little bit slidey coming out of the second of the Degner corners. Leclerc continues on his way. And he's got soft compound tyres. Yuki Tsunoda didn't get a soft tyre run in. Yuki Tsunoda is out there still on a medium compound tyre, so he's not going to have a qualifying simulation until tomorrow. Oscar Piastri, meanwhile, on the soft tyre and putting in a 30.7 for the first sector. We can pick him up now, making his way out of the hairpin at turn 11. So he's going for another qualifying run. Charles Leclerc makes his way out of Spoon and down that back straight.
Very different approaches between Leclerc and Piastri for turn 11. Leclerc goes in tighter earlier and then kind of pinches the car later in the corner on the exit, whereas Piastri is the complete opposite. And that was way too aggressive on that right-hand curve of 16. But the two of them, very different approaches in that one corner, and Leclerc crosses the line 4 tenths down on the best out there. Piastri, meanwhile, he did hang on to the fastest middle sector before his teammate nicked it from him.
So he's ahead of Lando Norris for the time being. Norris is making his way out of the chicane now. Here he comes. Was about a tenth up through the first 2 sectors and lost time in that final part of the lap by about 0.3 of a second. So they'd have been neck and neck had that not have happened. Pierre Gasly stays in the top 10. Decent lap by Gasly to be only 6.5 tenths behind now Oscar Piastri. We can have a look at Charles Leclerc into the chicane once more.
Yes, we spotted it off-board, didn't we? How hard he hit the wow, and you really hear the whole car jump into the air and crash back down onto the surface. This slow-mo will be good. Wow. Yeah, there's not much suspension travel on these cars, is there? And you really get to see that in full effect. But that's the good thing about this track. You see the drivers it is a driver's track, and you see the drivers exploring with where they can place the car. So Leclerc took Degner 1 very well, by the way. When we saw the off-board shot, it was centimetre perfect on the run in. And we look at Verstappen now not even a personal best first sector, and not really pushing on through spoon curve either.
It counts for nothing, Anthony, in terms of points and qualifying positions. But what do you make of the fact that both racing bulls were faster than the Red Bull when they got their qualifying simulations in before the third red flag?
Yeah, I think, well, that was a real handful for Verstappen there, wasn't it? Next in that corner. So many drivers struggling with that series of corners here this time around. But yeah, to answer your question, Crofty, I think obviously Racing Bulls just they got a bit lucky with the timing and where they were in the queue and the gaps that they had around them, etc., etc. So it's very hard. It's hard at the best of times to try to deduce who's on top and what the pecking order is. This session is even harder today. So yeah, I don't read too much into it. The fact that the Racing Bulls are ahead of Red Bull at this stage.
See what happens come qualifying tomorrow. As we see a couple of replays of that moment for Max Verstappen. Wow.
Really uncomfortable,
Really
or interesting, as Yuki would say.
It's like formidable. Rubber searing everywhere.
If you weren't with us, Ref P1,
I think this is the first time I saw any cadence.
variety of different meanings, a multitude of sins, if you were. So, 40 seconds to go, and both Lance Stroll and Lewis Hamilton have been noted for failing to follow race director's instructions. I wonder if they were doing practice starts in the wrong place. There's a set of instructions that are laid down by the race director, Rui Marquez, as to where these cars should be starting from. But as we saw, got another red flag. I wonder if there's another grass fire. Because no one seems to have a problem necessarily. I wonder if we've got another fight. Yeah, we have. Now this could become an issue. I was saying, and then we led on to something else, Anthony. I was about to say a few moments ago, I think they put down a chemical on the grass in Shanghai last year that protected the grass from catching fire. But look how quickly that's caught fire, and look how quickly it's spreading away. And there is a lot of grass around the side of the track here, all of which could do with a proper dousing of rain. No practice starts, say the FIA, so that's it, session over. Cars will come back to the pits now, and that will be it. And the marshals, the reason there's no practice starts is because they need the marshals to get to where that fire is and to put it out as quickly as they possibly can. But I'd say with the wind ants and with the dry nature of the grass, this is a worry.
It's that combination, isn't it, Crofty? The wind, the fact that the cars are scraping the floor so heavily around this track now. It's a smooth surface, so they can run the cars really low, and that's creating more sparks. And yeah, and this incredibly dry grass that we have, combined with that wind, is just blowing those sparks onto the grass. I wasn't there. Did you say it was China where it happened before?
Yeah,
I wasn't
Shanghai
there
last year.
in Shanghai. Yeah, I wasn't there at that, right? And yeah, I wasn't aware that they had to end up putting some kind of chemical down to stop it. But wow, what a
Ted
ridiculous
is
situation.
Ted would absolutely know that as a fact, but I'm pretty certain that they did.
Yes.
Sorry,
Ted. Crofty. Yeah, of course. I'm always here. Just before, the wind really picked up in that last 3 minutes, and just that minute before the red flag, it was almost the kind of wind that you get on the seafront, Crofty, where you can actually lean into it and it will support you. It was properly breezy down here.
Breezy summer day in Skegness.
Really strong wind. And just to see how quickly that sort of ribbon of fire went across towards the advertising banner there, towards the barrier, just underlines what a serious issue this is. So I think free practice 3 and qualifying tomorrow, obviously we'll see what happens with the weather conditions, with the wind conditions, but we could well have more stoppages. You tend to get less sparks in the race, don't you? Because obviously they're not going quite as quickly and they're not bottoming out quite as much. So maybe we won't have an interrupted Grand Prix, but I can see absolutely however much they douse every bit of the side of the track here, this being something that the circuit organisers here, Honda of course, who own the circuit, need to get right on top of.
Yeah, there is rain forecast for Sunday morning, and the wind is forecast to change direction tomorrow into tomorrow, and stay pretty much in that direction for Sunday as well. Let's see. In the words of Charles Leclerc, for the time being, Anthony, it's a nightmare, it's a nightmare. I've had enough of this session.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? It really
I don't think he's been that impressed.
No, and I think he was one of the unlucky drivers that didn't quite get the gap or the timing that he would have wanted. But there'll be many drivers in that position. But yeah, that is a session for most to forget.
4 red flags, count them, ladies and gentlemen, for Jack Doohan, and a lengthy delay while they repaired the barrier. For Fernando Alonso, when they managed to get his Aston Martin out of the gravel, and for the marshals to come and put the fire out. So needs Fireman Sam and his team here today. The grass, the ground, very dry indeed, and the sparks igniting the dry grass and blown onto it by the wind. But the teams have not learnt nearly as much, or nearly anything really, that they wanted to learn going into a race whereby, don't forget, C2 tyre is new for this year and a lot closer to the C3, and they're still trying to gather the data on that. A track that's been extensively resurfaced. Speeds are a lot faster, lap times a lot quicker than we had last year, even accounting for the fact that FP2 was a rainy, wet session last year. The team's had an awful lot to learn, and they've not really managed to do that. What has shone through in the end, Anthony, is that it's tight between the likes of Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull with Verstappen, Tsunoda didn't get a performance run in, and the Racing Bulls, but McLaren seem comfortably ahead on 1 lap pace.
Yeah, they certainly do, and at least it's close between the two teammates, Piastri and Norris, as we're expecting that battle to rage on all season long. But yeah, I always suspected this could be a McLaren circuit. I think many will be a McLaren circuit this year, but this one in particular, with its high-speed corners, the nature of this track, I think just lends itself really well to their configuration of car philosophy, I think. But Verstappen will be... This is usually his hunting ground, isn't it, Crofty?
Yeah.
I think he'll be more disappointed than ever with the lack of performance here today so far. A lot of work to do, I think, for Red Bull overnight.
He didn't just win the race last year, Max Verstappen. He demolished the opposition. McLaren, though, go into this race after winning the opening 2 Grand Prix for the 7th time in their history. They've won 3 in a row, if you count Abu Dhabi, and the last time they won 4 races in a row was 2005. Oscar Piastri picked up his maiden pole in Shanghai 2 weeks ago, and he tops FP2 this afternoon by just under 5/100ths of a second from his teammate Lando Norris. Impressive showing from Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls. Lewis Hamilton 4th for Ferrari. Russell, Leclerc, Verstappen, Gasly and Sainz for Williams completing the top 10, but there were many who didn't get the performance run in as it all got a bit chaotic towards the end. Alex Albon just outside the top 10, Hülkenberg ahead of his teammate Bortoletto. We had Fernando Alonso into the gravel, Jack Doohan into the tyre barriers, 2 red flags, and then 2 more as the grass caught fire. Yes, red letter day for flags, papaya day for fastest times.
Yeah, what a bizarre session. 4 red flags, as Crofty was saying, can smell the fire from here in the paddock. Hopefully they'll be able to get on top of that and apply something to stop it from happening tomorrow and interrupting free practice 3 and qualifying.
I'll do a low gear right now. Well, that was a good ride. Getting stronger, getting stronger. See y'all tomorrow. I gotta go get some food in me. I haven't eaten shit all day. Peace, love, and masturbation.